MLB Trade Rumors dropped its much anticipated top 50 free agents with predictions list yesterday. So, how much is Shohei Ohtani going to get in free agency? Which players are linked to the San Francisco Giants as possible fits? We'll get into all of that next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, and I'm a lifelong fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts, including YouTube. Check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. And coming up on today's show, I want to get into the top 50 free agents list. I'm obviously not going to go through all of the top 50 in detail, but we're going to kind of go through maybe like the top 10, and then I'm also going to discuss which players do they, being these three authors at MLB Trade Rumors, predict. They each make a prediction for each player. So which players get linked to the Giants in this prediction? It's kind of like, it's not an actual like rumor or an actual report or anything. It's just a prediction. But the most interesting prediction of all is, what is the contract that Mr. Shohei Ohtani is going to get? And I think that MLB Trade Rumors gets this one right. And I have seen a lot of wrong, in my opinion. We'll only know when the contract actually ends up being announced and signed and finalized what it ends up being. But basically, just to get it out there, 12 years, guess the amount. $528 million. Okay? It's a huge number, but it also is a lot less than some of the predictions we've seen other people attempt to make throughout the last year or so when they're trying to come up with a number. And I have said this all along. People are acting like he's like the best pitcher and the best position player, and you just combine them together and that's the contract. But no, I would argue that that's not, and that's what this reflects, because like I say all the time, first of all, he's not going to pitch next year. So next year you completely discount the pitching, and that gets factored in. But also, when he hits, he's a DH. He's not a guy who's like playing an elite defensive shortstop and in the lineup and then also pitching. That would be different. It would be a lot different. He's a DH, which has no defensive value when he's not pitching. Great at hitting, but there isn't defensive value, except on the days when he pitches. There's some defensive value, but also obviously the pitching value. So 12 years, $528 million. The way they get there, I think, is logical. They end up, that's a average annual value of $44 million, and the logic there is that it beats out who is it? Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander for the top average annual value in the sport, both of whom got $43.33 million. And so per year, but those were short-term deals. I think Verlander 2 years and Scherzer 3. And again, you might be thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense because Ohtani is, possibly arguably as good as those guys as just a pitcher, and then he's also a hitter. But first of all, the short-term nature of the Verlander, the shorter the term, the higher the average annual value is going to be. So, but also what I said about, he is not an elite pitcher plus an elite position player. He's an elite hitter plus an elite hitting DH. And so $528 million would be by far a record. So I'm not trying to say, oh, he's actually not very good. I'm just saying I've seen $700, $800 million predictions. And I just don't think that that's realistic or going to happen. But the idea of the ultimate number being he's the highest paid player by average annual value ever, and he gets 12 years, because again, Verlander and Scherzer, those were short term. Nobody's ever been paid anything close to 43.33 million over 12 years. Actually, that's not true. Aaron Judge got 40 million over 9 years. 40 million a year over 9 years just last offseason. And that kind of blew the doors off the previous free agent record for average annual value for a position player. And so note that 4 million more a year is not that much more. And that's because Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani are kind of similarly good, because Aaron Judge does play defense and plays it really well. And so, using a number like wins above replacement, it actually does do a pretty good job of capturing the value of these players. And like 2 years ago, Ohtani was really, really good, but Aaron Judge won the MVP award. And the writers, they have a clue what they're talking about. So anyway, 12 years, 528 million, 44 million a year for 12 years. I mean, you're paying the guy until he's 40 years old or so. It's a huge one, but and I won't yet say if any of the three authors predicted him to go to the Giants, but that's the contract prediction for Ohtani. So the next player, though, I was pretty shocked when I saw the next player in terms of how because they ranked him based on, I don't know if they ranked based on just total money or by, it looks like they did rank by total guaranteed money. But yeah, so the next player here that they have is actually Cody Bellinger. And this one surprised me a lot that that's who they have. I would, if I was contributing here as an author, I would say, whoa, hold the phone on this one. 12-year prediction for Cody Bellinger, a guy who just barely was, he got a 1-year deal last offseason. And what was it, like 1 year, $20 million-ish? And they've got him going for 12 years, $264 million. And so this one kind of blew my socks off because just based on just how bad he was for 2 consecutive years in LA prior to this year when he had a rebound season, but some of the underlying kind of numbers just scream a little bit that he didn't quite, quote unquote, deserve the great results that he had. So I'm scared. I just think that teams are going to be scared, and that fear is going to get baked into the contract. And so this contract is like, as if he, I don't know, I guess if he never had those 2 down years, which, and by the way, 900 plate appearances, hit 193 with a 256 on base, 355 slugging in 2 years combined from 2021 to 2022. Wow. 193 average, 69 weighted runs created plus, 0.8 Fangraphs wins above replacement in 239 games, 900 plate appearances. That was just 2 years ago. And then last year he has a rebound, but then you're going to give him $264 million over 12 years. That is just such a huge gamble. So I don't see him getting that much. If he does, good for him. If it's from the Giants, I would be scared. And so coming up in just a minute, we will kind of run through some of the other big names and then discuss the specific players who are linked to the Giants. And we'll also discuss Logan Webb being officially named a Cy Young finalist, one of 3 in the National League. So more about all of that in just a minute. And before we get into it, today's episode is brought to you by our very good friends over at FanDuel. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, and for good reason. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So naturally, I'm on the FanDuel website right now looking at the money line for the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars this Sunday at 1 Eastern, so I guess 10 o'clock, and the 49ers are favorites here at minus 162 on the money line. But honestly, you could put the bet on the most heavy favorite of any team, maybe the Ravens over the Browns or something as I scroll through, and place a $5 bet and get 150 in bonus bets if that team wins. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon in order to get this underway. The app, by the way, is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options beyond just the money line, spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Again, visit fanduel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, here we go. More of the top players I'm really interested to see. What about Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who is someone who apparently the Giants are interested in, very interested in. He's the top pitcher in Japan. He's going to be posted soon, from what we understand. And once he's posted, there's a 45-day window in which he has to sign. And so the sooner that gets going, the better, because then the clock starts ticking and we don't have to wait, with guys getting I'm mad. It used to be 30 days and they changed it to 45, but so be it. That's the way it is. And he is the next player on the list. Thanks again, by the way, for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow we've got the GM meetings going on right now, and so we're getting kind of comments from Farhan Zaidi from the GM meetings. I've already got some quotes here dialed up, ready for tomorrow. We're going to get into Patrick Bailey not winning the Gold Glove, which I said we'd talk about today, but I think I'm going to push that to tomorrow, and much more. So, and these top 50 lists are gold, and other publications put them out too, and then we can kind of compare and contrast. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is next on this list, and the prediction, I think this one seems right on based on kind of what I've heard, is for 9 years and $225 million. 9 years, $225 million for a pitcher out of Japan who's never pitched in the major league. So that is a massive commitment. Think about Kevin Gausman, for example, is like an ace, and he got 5 years, $110 million. And the Giants didn't give it to him when he wanted to return. And Carlos Rodon, who pitched like an ace with the Giants 2 years ago, got 6 years, $162 million. And we're talking 9 years, $225 million. The difference is Yoshinobu Yamamoto is like 25 years old. And so, yeah. And teams believe, I think the Giants believe he is like an ace caliber pitcher who's in his prime and super young. So there you have it. 9 years, $225 million is the prediction there. The next player on the list is Blake Snell. So we're starting to see the theme starting to, with 2 consecutive starting pitchers here, that this class is deep on starting pitchers. So we're going to continue to see that theme as we run through. But the prediction for Blake Snell, who's probably going to win the Cy Young Award, but does have command issues, so there's kind of some volatility there, and the Giants value guys who can throw strikes, and so I'm not sure he's the best fit for the Giants, but just to kind of mention, the prediction is 7 years, $200 million for the likely NL Cy Young Award winner, Blake Snell. So next on the list is Aaron Nola, and the prediction is 6 years, $150 million. He's another frontline starting pitcher. So we're seeing depth of not just decent, but good, like really good starting pitchers. So Jordan Montgomery comes in next at 6 years, $150 million. So that is the same exact prediction as Aaron Nola. I'm surprised by that. Montgomery, he had a good season, had a good end of the year with Texas, won the World Series with them. But Nola had kind of a down year. I just don't know that I'm discounting Nola that much and kind of raising the stock of Montgomery that much to have them at the same contract. But there you have it. That's what MLB Trade Rumors predicts. Matt Chapman, this one actually surprised me. 6 years, $150 million for Matt Chapman, who didn't have a very great offensive season. He had like a monster beginning of the season, like total monster beginning, but then he really fell off and was basically bad for like the last 5 months of the year. He was great the first month and then just was terrible afterwards. So that's a hefty price for a guy where there's a lot of volatility, and he has been connected to the Giants. We'll, in just a moment, discuss all the players who are connected to the Giants. Next on the list, though, Josh Hader, 6 years, $110 million. So this is the first reliever we find on the list, and that's a hefty price to pay for a relief pitcher, but he is arguably the best in the game. Edwin Diaz, got a similar deal. I think it was 5 years, $100 million last offseason. And so, Hader should probably beat out Edwin Diaz. And so that is a hefty number for a reliever, but he's good. And then we have another starting pitcher, Sonny Gray, another guy who has Bay Area ties, possibly a fit for the Giants. 4 years, $90 million is the prediction. And then rounding out the top 10 is Shota Imanga, who is the second best pitcher out of Japan, and the prediction is 5 years, $85 million. So a lot of starting pitchers. Number 11 is a starting pitcher. Number 12 is not a starting pitcher. Anyway, so many of the top 11 there, I didn't keep track, are starting pitchers. Just bear in mind. And Shohei Ohtani won't pitch in 2024, but afterwards plans to continue pitching. So like almost all of these top guys, according to MLB Trade Rumors, are starters this year. And there are some bats, though, mixed in. So, who is linked to the Giants? Well, I will say first and foremost, Shohei Ohtani, drumroll, not linked to the Giants. By these predictions, again, linked, take it with a grain of salt. These are just, writers for MLB Trade Rumors making educated guesses. They may in some cases have some inside information, but this is not the same as a report like that the Giants are interested in or are pursuing or whatever. This is just guesses. I'm a little bit disappointed that all three of the authors predicted that Ohtani would go to the Dodgers. I think that's a boring. If I was one of the three making the prediction, I would be the one to choose a different team. Maybe I'm biased and I really want this to not happen, but joining a team that's already loaded with superstars, I just think there's a decent chance that's not what Ohtani wants. But, I don't know the guy, but it seems like he doesn't want to be, he wants to establish his own legacy. And if he's just one of many superstars, maybe that's not exactly what he's looking for. So surprised it's unanimous for the Dodgers there. So the first player that gets linked to the Giants here is Cody Bellinger at that number 2 spot in this ranking. And 2 of the 3 authors predict Bellinger going to the Giants. And I could see Bellinger going to the Giants. I would just be completely shocked if Cody Bellinger gets 12 years, $264 million. I would be very surprised if he breaks $200 million. Like, I could see in the 150 to 180 range potentially. 12 years is also just crazy to me for a guy who had those 2 disastrous seasons. Now he had hurt his shoulder in the World Series celebrating a home, or in the NLCS celebrating a home run in 2020, and maybe that was it. But there's just a lot of risk, and this is a contract that almost reflects zero risk in my opinion. Like anyway, he's linked to the Giants here, and we'll leave it at that. The next player linked to the Giants, one of the 3 authors, predicts Yoshinobu Yamamoto to sign with the San Francisco Giants, and I think that this is logical as well. I think Bellinger is a fit, and I think Yamamoto is definitely a fit, and we're hearing actual reporters like Alex Pavlov. Not saying these guys aren't reporters, but they're not. They're kind of just writers, baseball writers. Just like I'm mostly a baseball podcaster. I'm not like talking about breaking news or whatever. But we hear guys like Alex Pavlovich saying the Giants are planning like a full court press on Yoshinobu Yamamoto. And so to see one of the three, the other two predictions are to the Yankees, and the third is to the Giants. And I think that that's very reasonable to link him to the Giants, for sure. It's definitely a guy that they're targeting, it seems. So coming up in just a minute, who is the next player that is linked to the Giants? There are a lot of guys on the top of the list that are linked to the Giants, and then it kind of tails off a little bit. So we will get into that and also discuss the Cy Young candidacy of Logan Webb in just a minute. And before we do, all right, as promised, the rest of the players on this all of the players on this top 50 list linked to the Giants, and a little bit about Logan Webb being named a Cy Young finalist, which is just a huge honor, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day, or your last listen. These episodes have been coming out late. I'm in a house that's currently under construction. There's noise during the day. I have to record in the evening. I'm trying to get back on a schedule where I'm recording in the evening and then publishing in the mornings. So I'm recording Sundays for Monday, and then I'm recording Thursday for Friday. You get what I'm saying? But I'm not there yet. So right now they're just coming out in the evenings, but I'm trying to get back on track. And then I'm going to get a background like I had before. If you're watching on YouTube and you don't see it, that's what's going on, is I moved and it's still under construction. Anyway, the next player linked to the Giants is not Blake Snell, not Aaron Nola. I think that's kind of like whatever. I would say that the Giants will be in on those guys as they target top-end starting pitching. I don't see them getting like 3 top-end starting pitchers. Like if they get Yoshinobu Yamamoto, then they're probably out on Nola and Snell and guys like that. But one of the 3 authors predicts Jordan Montgomery to the Giants. Now, for 6 years, $150 million, this seems like a trap deal to me. It's just, that's a lot of money for Jordan Montgomery. That's like basically almost the Carlos Rodon contract for Jordan Montgomery. Now, I don't know. I don't see that happening. He could certainly be linked to the Giants. Like he could be a target of theirs, but I think that some of the other guys like Yamamoto and Nola and even Snell are more logical and better fits, perhaps. I'd have to look closer at Montgomery's numbers. I'm a little surprised by that contract prediction. Next player linked to the Giants is Matt Chapman, and I think that makes a lot of logical sense as well. They could certainly afford a little bit of an upgrade and more stability at third base. Chapman is really good defensively. J.D. Davis kind of wore down as the year went on, but so did Matt Chapman. Like he maybe even more so did Chapman offensively. And for 6 years, $150 million, you better be darn sure that he's gonna give you a lot more than J.D. Davis could give you, and Casey Schmidt. I mean, you're blocking Casey Schmidt in that case, and so I'm not sure. Like I see the fit, but I also don't see the fit with Chapman. But linked to the Giants, like many of these guys, in the top, that's the top 7 players. And we've had like 4 linked to the Giants already, something like that. So anyway, continuing on, the next player, Sonny Gray, is not linked to the Giants. I think I'd say he's more of like a potential fit and target than Jordan Montgomery personally. And as I continue to scroll, I should really do control find at this point because we're running not out of players linked to the Giants, but there are fewer and fewer as we go on. Jung-Hoo Lee, not linked to the Giants or predicted to go to the Giants. I think that's a mistake. I'd probably have them as one of the top. I mean, there's only 3 guys making predictions, and I think one of them at least should be the Giants, personally. After that, we continue to go through it, and We are scrolling and we're not finding the Giants. There actually, I know for a fact there are more coming up here. Mitch Garver, I think he makes some sense, but is not linked to the Giants. Kenta Maeda, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Rhys Hoskins not linked to the Giants. I feel like he should be, because in the same way that Matt Chapman is potentially a fit, like Rhys Hoskins could be a fit, even though he would like push certain guys like Lamont Wade out of a spot. Rhys Hoskins, they love their local guys. He's coming off an injury, which would mean like a discounted price, but has a lot of offensive upside. Really good offensive player. Maybe not the best defensive player, but they love their local guys, and he grew up a Giants fan in the area and all that. And so I could definitely see Rhys Hoskins being a possible target. And so just continuing on, we're getting to names that aren't so relevant, and so I think maybe at this point we should draw the line. Nobody's got Sean Manaea going to the Giants, but they do predict for him to get 2 years, $22 million. Here's one: Harrison Bader. Yeah, if they want to upgrade defensively, but is that really the route to go? Harrison Bader, 2 years, $20 million being the prediction. So anyway, there may be some other guys at the back end. But if I control find, it's going to take me to the beginning, and I don't want to do that. So yeah, that's basically it. Maybe tomorrow, if there's anybody else, I'll mention them. But I want to get into Logan Webb briefly, and just his Cy Young candidacy. I don't think he wins the award this year. I think that's going to be Blake Snell. But Logan Webb he's just become so consistent. And he led the major leagues in innings, which matters a lot. You can have a 3.25 ERA like he did over 130 innings, or if you do it over 216 innings, it's just a lot more valuable. Like, it's just like a hitter. Durability, like you can have a slash line that looks really good, but miss half the season versus if you play every day. And it just makes a big difference because you're out there putting up that production on a more consistent basis. So Logan Webb's performance has been consistent, and his health has thankfully thus far been consistent as well. It was a goal of his in 2022 to get to 200 innings. He fell a little bit short, 7 2/3 innings short. But this year he led the majors in innings, 216 innings, 3.25 ERA, 3.16 fielding independent pitching. Ground ball machine as ever. Career high ground ball rate actually of 62%. Average launch angle against him just 0.6 degrees. So one of the best in the league at inducing ground balls. And he cut his walk rate almost in half, down to 3.6%. He only walked 3.6% of the hitters that he faced this year. That has to have been one of the best in the league. And as you would expect, if you get so many ground balls, home run rate was really good at 0.83. And then I saw a note, and I should have written it down, but somebody put out that Logan Webb is the only pitcher to have like a 3.25 ERA or lower the last 3 seasons and have pitched at least like 125 or something innings in each of the last 3 seasons as well. So that's what I'm talking about when I say good and consistent and durable. And so, he's not going to blow you away with strikeout, high octane, like, Carlos Rodon dominant stuff. But what he is just really good at run prevention, really consistent, really durable so far. And man, that extension looks really, really nice right now, because coming off this season, and he would be only 2 years away from free agency, you'd probably have a much harder time getting him to agree to an extension if you were trying now as opposed to last year. And so the fact that they got that done, there's a lot of legitimate criticisms of the front office, but getting the Logan Webb extension done, time will tell, right? Because there's 5 more years on the contract, and he could turn and struggle and whatever. But they've got him locked up for the next 5 years. 2024 at just $8 million, then $12 million, then 23, 23, and 24 for the in the respective final 3 years of that contract. Those are those would have been his free agent years. And so that's why they're more expensive than the would have been arbitration years. But anyway, the fact that he's a finalist, I should know this and present it to you right now, but I don't know exactly when the Cy Young Award winner will be announced, but there's only 3 finalists in the National League: Zach Gallen, Blake Snell, and Logan Webb. And so he's being recognized as one of the top 3 pitchers in the NL this year, and that's a really cool honor and just a great story of success for Giants player development, which has been a problem. And so Camilo Doval, like, these are guys who are real success stories from the development standpoint. And Webb is just so important to this team. So my hat is off to him, and obviously we'll talk more about it when the winners are announced. Thanks again, though, for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow we've got quotes from the GM meetings. Farhan Zaidi is there. I assume Pete Patella is also there. And reporters are talking to them every day. And so, talking about the offseason goals and whatnot. And so we'll get into that tomorrow. So once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out so much. So thanks in advance, and thanks to everyone who's done so already. I cannot wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening. You are now Locked On Giants.